My name is Frances. I am 88 years old, and I have been married twice. The first time for 31 years, the second time for 9. And I am here today to tell you something that took me most of my life to finally understand. Something I could not see when I was in the middle of it. Something no one around me was willing to say out loud. Most of the marriages I have watched happen after 60 were not really about love. They were about fear. Fear of the empty house. Fear of the diagnosis with no one sitting beside you in the waiting room. Fear of dying before anyone notices. Fear of what people will say. Fear of becoming invisible. Now, before you close this video, I am not against marriage. I am not against love. I am not against companionship. I have felt all three deeply, and I am grateful for every year of it, the good ones and the hard ones both. But I spent 9 years in a second marriage that I entered for all the wrong reasons. And it cost me, quietly, slowly, in ways I am still accounting for. And if you are over 60 and you are thinking about remarrying, or you are already in a marriage that feels more like a life raft than a love story, I need you to stay with me. Because what I am about to share are not theories. They are things I lived. They are things I watched the women in my life live. And they are things nobody tells you when you are standing at the edge of loneliness, wondering if one more leap is worth it. The last one, I am saving it for the end, because it is the quiet belief that drives all the others. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. Number 5, you convince yourself that familiar is the same as right. When my husband Gerald passed, I was 67. We had been together since I was 34. He was the only man I had really known as an adult. His habits, his voice, his way of filling a room, they were woven so deeply into my ordinary life that when he was gone, my ordinary life stopped making sense. 6 months after he died, I could not tell you what I liked for breakfast. I could not tell you what I did with my evenings. I could not tell you who I was when no one was watching. Because for 30 years, I had been a wife first and myself second, and I had not even noticed. 2 years later, I met Raymond at a church social. He was kind. He was present. He was familiar in all the ways that felt safe. Same generation, same references, same habits, same quiet rhythms of an older life. And I told myself, this feels right. But here is what I know now that I could not see then. Familiar and right are not the same thing. Familiar is simply what your nervous system already knows. Your brain, after decades of marriage, is trained to find comfort in the patterns of a shared life. The morning coffee together, the sound of another person moving through the house, the sense that someone will notice if you don't come home. When those patterns disappear, the absence feels unbearable. And the first person who fills them, even partially, feels like an answer. But they are not always an answer. Sometimes they are just a pattern your grief has mistaken for love. I did not ask myself the right question before I married Raymond. The right question is not, does this feel familiar? The right question is, do I know who I am on my own, and am I choosing this person from that place? I did not know who I was on my own, not yet. I never gave myself the time to find out, and that was the first mistake. Number 4, everyone around you pushes you toward remarrying, and no one pushes you toward yourself. I want to talk about something that does not get said enough. The people who love you, your children, your friends, your siblings, they will encourage you to remarry far sooner than they should. Not because they are selfish, because they are worried about you. Because an elderly parent alone in a house makes people nervous. Because a widowed friend is a reminder of their own mortality. Because a new partner on your arm means they can stop carrying the weight of your grief. And so they say things like, "He seems wonderful. You deserve to be happy. Don't you think Gerald would have wanted this for you? You shouldn't be alone at your age." Every single one of those things was said to me by people who loved me, and every single one of those things nudged me toward Raymond before I was ready. My daughter was the most enthusiastic. She threw a dinner party specifically so we could meet. She called me afterward and said, "Mama, you were glowing." And she was right. I was. But she could not see, and I could not see, that what I was glowing from was not love. It was relief. The relief of feeling wanted again. The relief of not being the widow at the table. The relief of mattering to someone in the specific way a partner makes you feel like you matter. That relief is real. I am not dismissing it, but it is not a foundation. What I needed, and what no one encouraged me toward, was time, real time, not the 6 months of grief everyone nods along to before they start asking if you are getting back out there. I mean the slow, unglamorous, uncomfortable time it takes to learn how to be alone without it feeling like punishment. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the wound. Solitude is the healing. But we rush past the healing because it is quiet and hard and has nothing to perform. If someone in your life is widowed or divorced and over 60, the kindest thing you can do is not find them a companion. It is to sit with them, to let the quiet be okay, to trust that they are capable of rebuilding themselves without someone new to lean on. And if that person is you, give yourself permission to disappoint everyone who is rushing you. Your timeline is yours, and it matters. Number 3, you confuse not wanting to be alone with wanting to be together. Here's the thing about a second marriage after 60 that I did not understand until I was inside one. It is not always a marriage to a person. Sometimes it is a marriage to a feeling, or rather, a marriage away from a feeling. The feeling of being alone in the world, unclaimed, invisible, past your time. Raymond was a good man. I want to be clear about that. He was decent and honest and genuinely fond of me, but I was not in love with Raymond. I was in love with not being alone. And there is a version of that in so many second marriages I have watched among women my age. I had a friend named Constance, sharp, funny, proud, one of the most capable women I have ever known. After her divorce at 64, she moved into a small apartment and declared she was done with men entirely. 14 months later, she was engaged. I asked her once, carefully, if she was sure. She said, "Frances, I cannot spend the rest of my life eating dinner alone. I simply cannot." And I understood her. I really did. Eating dinner alone is not a small thing. It is a daily confrontation with your own solitude. It is a ritual that, when done alone night after night, can feel like evidence of something, that you are not enough, that your life has contracted, that the good years are behind you. But Constance did not choose her second husband because she wanted to spend her life with him. She chose him because she could not bear the dinner table. 3 years later, she told me quietly, "I think I made a terrible mistake. But I don't know how to undo it at 70. That is the trap. You enter the marriage to escape a feeling, and then you are trapped inside a life you chose for all the wrong reasons. Too tired and too proud and too afraid of what people will say to walk back out. Not wanting to be alone is real. It is human. It is not shameful. But it is not the same thing as wanting to be with someone. And you must know the difference before you make a permanent decision. Number 2, the practical reasons feel like wisdom, but they are still fear. By the time you are 60, 70, or older, you have learned enough about life to dress fear up in very reasonable clothes. I am not talking about romantic impulse. I am talking about the quiet, rational-sounding voice that says, "It makes sense financially. I won't have to manage the house alone. If something happens to me, there will be someone there. My children will stop worrying. I won't have to face whatever comes next by myself." All of those things sound like wisdom. Some of them even are. Practical considerations are real. Partnership at an older age has genuine, undeniable value. But there is a difference between choosing a partner and choosing a solution. I have watched women move men into their homes within 18 months of meeting them because the furnace broke and the finances were tight and the stairs were getting harder and the nights were getting longer. And the man seemed reliable and the man seemed kind. And some of those arrangements turned out fine. Some turned out far from fine. I knew a woman, Ruth, who remarried at 71 for largely practical reasons. She had a lovely house. He had mounting debts she did not know the full extent of until after they were married. Within 2 years, he had his name on the deed. Within 4, they were in serious financial trouble that was entirely his. She spent her late 70s fighting to hold on to the only home she had known for 30 years. Now, I am not saying every man who comes along is a predator. Most are not. But vulnerability has a way of attracting convenience seekers. And after 60, when you are visibly alone, visibly aging, visibly in need of a certain kind of support, you must look clearly at what someone is actually bringing to your life versus what they are drawing from it. Ask the hard questions before you sign anything. Before you merge anything, before you give up the one thing that is fully and entirely yours, your independence, your home, your financial security, your daily peace. Practical is not the same as wise, and fear, when it speaks in a calm, reasonable voice, is still fear. Number 1, the deepest reason. You were never taught that your own company is enough. And here it is, the one underneath all the others. The reason most late-life marriages are built on fear rather than love is not weakness. It is not failure. It is not even a lack of self-awareness. It is that most of us, especially women of our generation, were never once taught that our own company was enough. Think about what we were raised to believe. A woman without a partner is a woman who has been left behind. A woman alone at a certain age is something to pity or to fix. Solitude was a gap. A companion was the solution. To be unmarried was to be incomplete. To be widowed or divorced was to be in a waiting room, waiting for your real life to resume when someone came and claimed you again. Those messages are old. Many of us would reject them out loud. but they live in our bones. And when the loneliness comes, and it does come, at 3 a.m. with the house too quiet and the future too uncertain, those old messages become very loud again. You need someone. You are not meant to be alone. What is wrong with you that you are still by yourself? And so we reach, we settle, we enter arrangements that look like love from the outside, but feel, on the inside, like two people holding each other up, so neither one has to face the dark alone. There is nothing wrong with meeting people. There is nothing wrong with wanting a partner. There is nothing wrong with remarrying for love, real love, clear-eyed love, the kind that comes from a full person choosing another full person. But that kind of love requires something most of us never built. It requires the ability to be alone without being afraid. I did not build that ability before I married Raymond. I do not think Raymond had built it either. We were two frightened people who mistook each other for shelter. The marriage was not unhappy, but it was not what I deserved. And in the quiet moments, I always knew it. What I have now, at 88, in this small apartment with my books and my window and my long mornings that belong entirely to me, is something I could not have imagined at 67. I am content, not happy every minute, not without loneliness sometimes, not without wishing Gerald were still here to share the evening news and argue about where to have dinner, but content, settled in myself in a way I never was when I was looking outside myself for someone to complete what I thought was missing. The morning light through my kitchen window is enough. The phone call from my granddaughter is enough. The book I am reading, the garden I walk past, the neighbor who waves, enough. Not everything, not a perfect life, but enough and real and mine. Let me bring this together. Number 5, familiar is not the same as right. Grief will dress familiarity up as love. Give yourself time to know the difference. Number 4, the people who love you will push you toward remarrying before you are ready. You are allowed to disappoint them. Your timeline is yours. Number 3, not wanting to be alone is not the same as wanting to be with someone. Know which one is driving you before you make a permanent decision. Number 2, practical reasons are still fear wearing a reasonable face. Ask hard questions. Protect what is yours. And number 1, the real work, the deepest, most important work, is learning that your own company is enough. Not a consolation prize, not a waiting room, a life, a real, full, dignified, beautiful life. Because here is what nobody tells you at 60. The loneliness you are running from is not permanent. It is a season. And if you sit with it long enough, if you stop trying to outrun it with a ring or a roommate or a reason to stay busy, it eventually becomes something else. It becomes solitude. And solitude, learned slowly, is one of the deepest freedoms there is. You have already survived things that would have broken a lesser person. You have already built something from nothing more times than you can count. You can do this too. Not because it is easy, because you are more than enough. If this reached you today, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have lived through something like this, if you recognize yourself in any part of what I said, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you for sitting with me today. Take good care of yourself. You are worth it.